Welcome to the Retro21 Studios podcast. I'm your host, M Squared. Today, I'm joined with Deena Pierott, longtime friend. Deena runs a fantastic group called iUrbanTeen, founded in 2011. Deena's going to give us a rundown on iUrbanTeen. It's a really exciting group and good for the community. Hi, Deena.
Hey there. Good to see you again. We go way back.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think I met you when iUrbanTeen was still fairly new, maybe
Mhm.
back in 2012 or so, around
I
that
think
time.
so.
You and your team helped us create our very first website.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That was cool. I'm trying to remember. I went to a couple of events. You've probably had hundreds of those events since then.
Yes, we've had a ton of them. When we first met, we were primarily just in Portland and we just launched in Seattle. Well,
Hmm.
now we're in Los Angeles, Southern California. We've had some soft launches in the Bay Area. We're now also in Dallas, and we've also had a presence in Houston,
Hmm.
and we're going to launch in Canton, Ohio. We've worked with close to 20,000 youth since we started, and we have an extremely high retention rate over the years. So these kids and these families stay with us year after year, which I'm honored that retention rate that we have.
Oh, it's a great testament to the program. Deena, what is iUrbanTeen? We hear a lot about STEM, and you're deep in that space.
Let me go to why I even created this program. I was a commissioner in the state of Washington on the Governor's Commission on African American Affairs. And all of our ethnic commissions were talking about the opportunity gap issue, especially for male youth of color who were being marginalized, disenfranchised, not graduating school, maybe being incarcerated in urban spaces. I am a natural entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs always try to find the fix to something, right? They
Right.
create something to make a difference. I wanted to see what was happening in my community, Vancouver, Washington, Southwest Washington. What I soon discovered was that a lot of the high school counselors weren't telling our Black and Brown families about the Running Start program, where kids can be in high school and also take college courses, graduate high school with a high school diploma and an associate's degree. That is education equity. That's giving them that leg up into that whole college space. A lot of the counselors weren't telling our families about it. Information is so powerful. We started making sure families knew about this program, helping them mentor students to pass the competence test to get into the program, etc. Then I was asked to participate on a chief information officer council in Portland. And I told my friend Mark, who had these councils across the country, but I'm not a CIO. And he said, I know you're not, but you're innovative and we need your voice, which I appreciated. So I brought a lot of equity type of programming and panels to our sessions that we would have. But at that very first meeting, I walked into the room and I was it for diversity. I walked into the room, pretty much a room full of white men.
Hmm.
And when I sat down, I automatically thought, over here, we have these students who are marginalized, disenfranchised, no clear pathway to opportunities. But in this room is where the opportunities are. So, how do I bridge this divide? And so,
Hmm.
6 months later, I launched iUrbanTeen with the help of some of those men who were in the room and who are still supportive of the program after all of these years. And I knew from the very first session, we had to keep going because what it was just an exposure to, exposing them to the different career paths in technology, in cybersecurity, in coding, in virtual reality, even healthcare tech to broaden their experience.
Hmm.
And so the parents showed up and I told them, just stay. That started our family engagement model. So at every event that we have, families are invited to stay and
Hmm.
listen in and even participate.
Wow.
And that family connection and engagement is what really keeps that retention going year after year.
Hmm.
Um, and so we have, over the years, we first started just having those summits in Portland and Seattle. Then we started expanding to our ongoing programs in engineering and our cybersecurity program, which is 8 weeks long, our GIS mapping program, our writing programs, our skilled trades programs. Now we have our iSports program, which is all about sports and data analytics. So it's about that front office working with sports agencies, Everybody's not going to be the next LeBron James.
Right.
But how can you still work in the sports industry? It's giving kids a view of that. For that program, which is brand new, we got a big grant from the National Basketball Association to have the program be in Portland and Dallas, where we're partnering with the Dallas Mavericks and the Portland Trailblazers.
Mhm.
So it's a full month of just teaching them Excel, all about taking a deep dive into Excel, which is a
Mhm.
great skill for them to have. These kids are taking a deep dive into statistics. And then finally, the last month is working with the sports agencies and getting a close-up view of what those careers looks like. How do they use data within their organizations? It's a really
That's
wonderful
awesome.
program. I love it. We do some great stuff. Everything we do is a multi-level learning experience.
When you say Excel, you're talking about Microsoft Excel
Microsoft
spreadsheet,
Excel,
learning the ins and
pivot
outs.
tables, all that stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. That's
Yeah.
huge.
It's a great skill for them to have. We're trying to work with Microsoft, see about getting them certifications for Microsoft Excel after they
Mhm.
finish the course with us.
Excel, it's almost a hidden talent, but it's so fundamental. It's so rooted.
Yeah.
A lot of us in technology take it for granted. You need to put together a pivot table. It's awesome.
Every organization uses Excel,
Hmm.
So we're giving these kids a leg up on those career fields, even being skilled in that. And statistics, you
Hmm.
know, how well that is for them to use. We have our college readiness programs and scholarships, but also the community service aspects. Everything we do is for free for these students, but we want to learn, have them understand the art of giving back to
Hmm.
community. We also have community service programs with the kids. They may work with food banks or Habitat for Humanity, something where they're giving back because they can add that to their resumes and
Hmm.
essays when they're applying for scholarships.
I have a ton of questions. You mentioned the family involvement, right? The conversation today is often around the disconnected youth. Sounds like this is making that connection and then the
Yeah,
educational component.
it truly is, but we're more human centered. We look at the whole child and we try to involve them into a lot of the decision making that we're doing and the things that we do. One of the things that I hear often from our students, especially from our Black male students, at the end of the day, when we have our big events, we ask the students, what did we do right by you today? And where did we miss the mark? And we
Hmm.
listen. Where did we miss the mark is very few. It might be things like, we're tired of pizza, Miss Dina, or they want it to be 2 days instead of 1 day. Or they might say one workshop was boring. But the pluses, what did we do? They had great fun. They met new friends. The workshops were really cool. The instructors they learned a lot. But when I hear our youth say, especially our boys say, they felt valued today,
Hmm.
that's when I know we're on track. That's when
Wow.
I know we're doing what we're supposed to do because we
Yes.
want to make every student feel that they're part of a community and that
Hmm.
they are valued. I think is what makes us stand out differently is
Hmm.
that human side. Yes, we want them to know about STEM and tech and all these careers,
Hmm.
but we want them to know that we value them, that
That's
we
awesome.
appreciate them.
That's important.
Um,
Absolutely.
it's so important. And so I make sure with our staff that we have, I never hire staff that don't have a passion for this work.
Hmm.
They have to have that passion because that passion is going to show. These kids are smart. They know when you're in it for them.
That's
They know that when they feel valued, it's genuine. Even
awesome.
the years that we weren't funded at all,
Hmm.
you I'm like, no, we got to keep going with this because when I was in the White House, I was honored during President Obama's presidency as the White House Champion of Change for Technology Inclusion.
Hmm.
At the end of the day, there were 7 of us being honored. They asked us, "What are some of your challenges?" I said, "I'm gonna be totally transparent here. Mine is funding. I'm a woman of color with a program making an impact in the community, but I'm here for the long game. We're not gonna leave the communities and the students we serve. I could pull a rabbit out of my hat. Nobody told me I'd be pulling rabbits out for another 7 years. It was ridiculous. I don't know how we did it. It was me and Keith Kochek Hummel, who has been with us for years. We made it happen. We had no staff at all, but we kept expanding and making it happen. And it was with the help of some of these company partners like Microsoft, Nike, Intel, those who would provide certain events and some funding for us to have events. So without them, we couldn't have made it happen.
Hmm. So Earlier, you mentioned the problem with the schools in the early days where they have programs um, where you could do high school, college, get the associate degree, and Black youth weren't being told about those types of programs. So, with respect to the school systems, how much involvement is there today? Do you see improvement? Is there partnership?
I see some improvement because they're getting it. There's
Hmm.
a lot of amazing teachers out there that have a passion, just like I do for iUrbanTeen. They have a passion for students. And it's those teachers that'll get those students to our programs.
Hmm.
There are still some bad ones in every organization, every group, you got some bad apples.
Hmm.
But they're finally getting it. I used to do presentations at schools and conferences on implicit bias and its impacts on students of color, you
Hmm.
know, how that can be such a barrier for their learning experience. One, when they don't feel valued, when they feel those stereotypes that people put on to our students, right?
Hmm.
And a lot of teachers are falling for that stereotype and those biases and things, even though they didn't think they had them, but they did. And those students can feel it. I would say it has been an uphill battle, but I feel that a lot of these schools have really been trying to put a dent into that, into looking at how they can support students and families better.
Hmm.
But we also work with our parents. We have a parent roundtable at a lot of our summits. And it's we work with them and talk to them about how do you best advocate for your children in schools?
Hmm.
Because a lot of parents felt intimidated by going up to the schools. And yes, administration would try to intimidate them not to come up and show up, at
Right.
the schools. Working with them how important their presence is at those schools, at those PTA meetings, getting involved with PTAs. So I've seen an impact, an uptick, on that as well. So I think things are changing. Where are they where they should be? Not quite yet, but I think we're heading in a good direction.
Switching gears a bit, one of the foundational elements of the podcast is around artificial intelligence. And so that falls square within the STEM arena. You talked about the progression from spreadsheets to statistics. And these are all fundamentals around data engineering.
Yeah.
This is definitely a segue into language models and AI. Are you guys doing anything in that space right now?
We are. We are doing a little bit into the AI space and getting kids more aware of that. With our IMAP program, we teach the kids multi-level learning experiences. We teach them GIS mapping
Hmm.
along with AI and research principles attached to a certain product. It could be the first one we did was on diabetes. And
Hmm.
I told Microsoft and Cigna, who funded that program, I said, not only are these kids going to be learning these technology tools along with research, they're going to understand how diabetes is impacting Black and Brown communities at record numbers and
Hmm.
how can they change the narrative. So they
Right.
use those tools to research diabetes in certain areas and its
Hmm.
impacts. We do it on climate change,
Hmm.
do it on transportation inequities in certain cities. It was really cool. One year we had in Dallas with our IMAP climate change, we had SpaceX or Blue Origin that worked with the kids on how to read satellite data and on its impact of climate change in Dallas. It was really cool. But there's more I want to roll out for our kids, and that's how to get behind it. There's a lot of AI can be very scary.
Hmm.
You know, we don't know the true impacts in jobs and society that AI is going to have, but how do we get our folks behind some of the compliance issues in AI? How
Right.
do you become drivers of it and not just the customer base or the user base of AI?
Mhm.
So that's what I'm looking at, trying to create more awareness of AI. I use it all the time on some of our writing models and certain grants. It really helps, but there's such a deep layer of what it can do. How can our kids become entrepreneurs of AI?
Absolutely.
The more you use it, the more it understands you. I know that now when I'm using it, it is creating and writing content the way Deena, thinks. So it's learned my style. It's learned all about iUrbanTeen. It's learned about Mosaic because I have a diversity company called Mosaic Métier also. So
Mhm.
the more I use it, the more it's learning from me,
Right.
which is scary because I'm like, oh, pretty soon it's gonna be me.
Mhm. What's really cool, right? A lot of this stuff has been underway for years. I was just reading a report from Databricks, It was saying over the past few years, companies were in the prototyping stage, the proofs of concept. And now their data is showing that we're at a transition point, right? Those organizations are implementing those models, which is a good sign that it's working and there's comfort with the technology. I think it's a rich area and a great progression from what you described earlier, as far as some of the work that the youth are doing with VR, even on the data side, the statistics, because all that plays into it.
Wow. Yeah. You're going to have to hit me on all this stuff.
Absolutely.
For being our own iUrbanTeen chatbot and uploading all of our history.
That would be really cool. And there's a variety of free tools, open source, and other incentives that it could become a possibility. I have another one to toss out there really quickly, Deena, that I think would be great. And I think we mentioned it at the onset, and that's podcasting. You have the presentation side of it. The same technologies come into play behind the scenes. I think it'd be an interesting area to delve into as well.
Yeah, I definitely want to do the podcast thing. I want to be the podcast Oprah. Yeah.
Absolutely. So what's next? What does iUrbanTeen need? You guys have had tremendous growth over the years,
We've
but I know
had
you're always forward looking.
created and thought up, conceptualized over 10 years ago. But what's next for us? What the needs are? We need volunteers in the various cities that we're in. Volunteers really help grow an organization. In fact, tonight in Dallas, we're having our volunteer happy hour to recruit more volunteers to help us. That's helping us with, it could be anything from helping us write press releases to helping us with our fundraisers, to help with outreach. We're trying to reach out to more students or individuals to be present at our events.
Good.
We need volunteers in various cities. We're in Seattle, Portland, Los Angeles, Dallas, Houston, and soon. We need funding. Are we funded the way that we should be? No, not yet. I'm so optimistic. I'm like, it will happen. It will happen. But we do need more funding so that we can hire more staff, even if it's part-time. And it can help with fundraising.
So how does that work? I'm a corporate owner and I'm listening to the podcast. I'm like, okay, they need funding. I have a strong interest in this. How do I get engaged? What do we do? What happens?
Yeah, on our website, iUrbanTeen.org is our donate button where you can donate to a one-time donation or you can be a reoccurring donor. So we get a lot of individuals who will donate that way. And they can sponsor an event. For instance, like those one-day summits that I was talking about, our STEM summits, our space summits, our trade summits. Companies and individuals can sponsor a table of teens to be able to attend. Because again, everything is free. We really reach out to low-income households, trying to get those students there and give them first-class, first-rate experiences. Every year I have a Dr. Martin Luther King breakfast in Vancouver, Washington, where I've had individuals like Congressman John Lewis there, Ambassador Andrew Young, Reverend C.T. Vivian. They're speaking. And that event, it's January 20th at LNA Resort in Vancouver. But the proceeds of that creates our scholarship fund. We were able to give out almost 20 scholarships last year.
Wow.
Just graduating students and returning college students. Even if they're in college, they can still get a scholarship. That Dr. Martin Luther King breakfast, which will be on our website soon, is another way they can donate to help sponsor that event. I look for sponsors because the cost of the meeting space, the food, can eat up a lot of those dollars. So we try to get as many sponsors as we can to help offset that cost so that ticket prices can go directly to fund the scholarship. And 100% of it goes to the scholarship fund. Yeah. And we're having in Portland, we're having our first gala on November 1st. And information on that is on our website as well. November 1st at the Northwest Natural Gas Hospitality Room in the evening. It'll be at 5:30. We're also having that gala in Seattle during Black History Month at the African American Museum in February. You were saying what's next. What's next for us is we've been focusing on middle school and high school students for so long, but we had that retention rate. We have students who graduate high school who go off to college who are still connected to us. We created iUrban University for our alumni students, where we try to get internship opportunities for them, and continue on that career pathway. What we're creating now is more of our adult learning experiences, true career pathway programs in semiconductor tech training, uh, cybersecurity boot camps, coding boot camps, and even looking at creating a pre-apprenticeship program for construction. That'll
Oh,
be for our
nice.
18 crowd.
Mhm.
In fact, we just got some great funding to launch that semiconductor training. So I'm excited about that
Mhm.
over 18 crowd first part of our iUrban University track.
Yeah, I thought about that a bit earlier, and you brought it up, right? Folks who went through the program, right now they're in college. You mentioned the scholarships, and now some of those folks are giving back.
They've
Something
given,
that
they help volunteer at events. And what I'm also proud of, especially with Microsoft, Microsoft hires a lot of our students who have graduated college and now working with Microsoft as program managers. So it's a long continuum with some of our company partners, which I'm honored to have.
that's awesome. Another great place to check out is LinkedIn. I don't know who's doing your content and putting that out there. If it's you or others, it's great. You guys put out a lot of great content.
My media team, our communications media, they do such great work.
Hmm.
They really do with our flyers, our videos to promote our events. We get a lot of comments on the great work that they do.
They're top notch. I have to, have to admit. Deena, I really appreciate you joining the show today. This is great hearing you providing a more in-depth view of iUrbanTeen. It's great to reconnect.
Thank you for having me here. This was just like talking at our kitchen table. You made it so easy. You're a great host.
I appreciate it. And let's stay in touch. I'd like to follow up with the podcasting, AI and STEM. Maybe there's something I could do online and put a course together.
Yes, I'm going to bug you. You shouldn't have threw it out there now. Now I'm going to bug you. I'm like a fungus. You can't get rid of me.
Again, thank you so much. I look forward to next time.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for joining the Retro 21 Studios podcast. I'm your host, M Squared. Take care.